Hey, what's up you guys? This is Rob from Gay Guy Plays, and on today's snapshot, we're getting all kinds of grabby when we take a look at Hydroid's Pilfering Swarm. So you can pick up Pilfering Swarm for 25,000 standing after you reach rank 5 with either Cephalon Suda or New Loka. Now, before we get started, I figured we should take a look at some of Tentacle Swarm's mechanics due to the fact that it's a bit more interesting than your standard damage-based ultimate. Now, it deals 2 instances of magnetic damage. The first deals damage when a tentacle emerges at the beginning of the duration, and the second when that tentacle submerges at the end of Tentacle Swarm's duration. In addition, it will also deal magnetic damage on its first contact with an enemy, which includes its initial swats and smashes. Now, as most of us know, magnetic damage itself only has a bonus towards Corpus units, and does slightly suffer against alloy armored targets, but aside from that, it's fairly bog standard. Now, here's where things get interesting. Once an enemy is captured by a tentacle, they are dealt finisher damage, which ignores armor, bypasses shields, and deals 100% bonus damage to ferrite and alloy armored units as well as sinew-based infested. So, while the emergence, submergence, and initial contact have a base of 300 magnetic damage, depending on the faction, the 200 finisher-based damage per second may actually end up dealing more damage to higher level targets. Now, all this damage shock is quite important due to the effects of Pilfering Swarm. The Syndicate modifier at its base grants a 100% chance to roll an additional loot drop for every enemy killed by Tentacle Swarm. Now, from playtesting, this percentage can be increased via the use of power strength mods. Now, there are a few things I need to clarify. The skill grants an additional chance to roll on loot. This does not mean that it has a guaranteed chance to drop loot, but instead a second chance that the enemy may drop loot at its regular rate. Now, due to the fact that we're working with a random factor, the only thing we can really do is eyeball the results. So, I hit up a defense mission, parked my butt in the corner, and casted Tentacle Swarm on the pod repeatedly, not bothering to collect anything until the end of the 5-wave mark. Now, our first clip shows Tentacle Swarm without the Pilfering augment. Note the loot drops. Our second clip shows the effects of Pilfering Swarm with my standard build that sits at 85% power strength, giving Pilfering Swarm an 85% chance to roll for loot a total of 3 times. Note the loot drops. And I went all out with the last clip maximizing power strength, which gives us an 84% chance to roll for loot a total of 4 times. Note the loot drops. Now, while this augment does seem fairly fun, keep in mind that the tentacles themselves do have to do the killing in order to trigger the drops. And, as with all damage-based ultimates, its effectiveness will taper off as enemy levels begin to climb. Now, as for the build, this is honestly the standard build I run, swapping out Flow for Pilfering Swarm. Now, I do like having Narrow-Minded in this build due to the fact that I like having my tentacles tightly grouped. It's well suited for defense, or honestly just having a reliable placement of tentacles. Frankly, if you don't wrangle your tentacles, they can end up in some surprising places. And let's face it, the emergence of tentacles tends to be surprising enough. Now, as for maximization, it's all about finding something that doesn't matter to you and swapping it out for a maxed out blind rage. When I did my test, I chucked vitality for it, knowing that I wasn't going to be doing anything that would put me in too much danger. However, I rarely give up my survivability for damage, so I'll most likely stick to my standard build instead. Because the fact is, when it comes to playing around with tentacles, it's better to play safe than to play hard. Which I'm not really sure tentacles can actually get. I'm not like a biologist or anything, but you know. So thank you for watching another quickie. Be sure to stay tuned for more Syndicate snapshots here at A Gay Guy Plays.